What I'm going to talk about today is one of the largest determining factors in whether or not you will find success and how that success will feel. Many of you have probably been in a situation before where you had good things going for you, but maybe they didn't feel as great as they should have, or at least as great as you thought they should have. Or maybe on the contrary, situations that felt bad or that were bad but didn't feel as bad as maybe you felt they should have. These are two different ideas here, two different situations with the similarity. A difference in the way you feel compared to what's actually going on. Okay? What is this? Well, one part of it, one of the aspects of it that I believe, and I have seen this in my own life and seen it in other people's life as well, is our own, this aspect and how it controls how we feel about life. What I'm talking about here is the autosuggestion of our life. How we dictate how we feel about life, how we dictate what our life becomes. The story that we tell ourselves about our life. The story that we bring to attention on a day-to-day basis. What do we remember? What do we remember as the story? What do we remember as what we went through? Now, this might seem incredibly simple to you, but I want you to ask yourself, what story are you telling yourself? What story are you thinking on a day-to-day basis? What story are you staying a part of? Because what happens is if we don't take time to consciously realize what we're thinking of and what story we're telling ourselves, we often fall into the hole of being in good situations or bad situations and not being in alignment, like being in these situations for no reason. Or, on the worst end of it, you end up in an absolutely terrible position and you blame it on everybody else, right? You don't think it's your fault, but it really is because you're the one who gave yourself that story and therefore created it and continued to manifest it. This might be hard for you to understand, hard for you to accept and internalize as your own belief, but I promise you, if you begin to look at your life with more responsibility, things will begin to change over time. But really take a second to think about this. What story are you telling yourself? This is an idea known as auto-suggestion, right? What are we suggesting to ourselves? Because we all know there's a million different things that go on day to day and every day in our everyday life, right? All these different ideas, all these different things going on. What we choose to pay attention to makes a difference. What we choose to internally suggest to ourselves in our subconscious mind is what makes the difference. You see, back when I worked construction, I did countertops, was carrying heavy stone day in and day out. I had the choice to go into work grateful or ungrateful. You see, in my previous job prior to this, right out of high school, doing electrician work, I hated it. I did not like the people I was working with. I didn't like the electrician work in particular. And I was going into it with a very ungrateful mindset. So as I came into this new job, I had a friend that hooked me up with the job. I was like, I'm going to make the most of this. I need something. I need to figure something out. And I went into it with a different expectation, a different mindset. I said, how can I make the most of this? And so every day I wake up and I do a gratitude meditation. I do a meditation of some kind that dictated how I felt. Now, this is before I really did journaling, before I really did any sort of, I worked out then, but I wasn't doing really any self-development at all, other than that working out. So this is a habit that I picked up on. I said, all right, let me try this. And with just, I think it was like 3 minutes or 5 minutes of gratitude meditation in the morning, I would leave headed to work with a euphoria feeling a lot of mornings. And then I would have a great day ahead. I would have a lot of fun throughout the day. Even though I was doing hard work, I was doing hard labor, carrying heavy stone upstairs, off of truck beds, doing heavy labor, sweating my ass off, or being in the cold, whatever it was. I enjoyed it. Now, I think I'm a naturally hard labor enjoying person. I've always been like that. But it was a different thing for me. It was a different situation once I chose to be grateful, right? And I tell you this story to help you realize that that was an act of conscious auto-suggestion. I chose to take a practice and make it my own that was helping me suggest the right ideas to my mind. And I would also do it in the morning. And in the morning, it's much easier to impress your subconscious mind, so on and so forth. My real point here is that We have to take the time to suggest the right ideas. We have to take the time to create the space in our life so we know what ideas we're suggesting to ourselves. We have to take the time to understand our space, our mental space. That's called mindfulness. You see, nowadays, more than ever, our society thrives upon people being unmindful. Our society is thriving upon people just kind of going through their day-to-day actions without any real direction, without any real chosen idea that they are wanting to create. So what happens is you create 17 different ideas that you're really wanting to pursue, and you put energy into all of them, and nothing really comes about, except for maybe misfortune, or what feels like misfortune, because it's not what you thought you wanted, or it's not what you thought you were working towards. But in reality, you're putting 16 different signals out there to the universe, and the universe gives you a mix of 16 signals back. And they might be, they might fight one another. And then you got something that breaks down over time and ends up into what you perceive as a negative, terrible situation. And it all starts with that suggestion, that auto-suggestion. Are you suggesting to yourself that you need 16 different things to come to fruition right now? Most likely. I know I was. Again, even when I was doing that meditation, there was different periods then, and I didn't stay completely consistent with that meditation for forever, might I add. I went through a period where I was going into this unmindful, autosuggestive state. And what happened? Well, things didn't unfold out as they should in certain ways. I had more issues in my relationship. I had some issues at work or in my physical life. And it was that process of becoming more understanding of what I was really going through and what I was really putting out into the universe or bringing into myself to put into the universe that really started to make the difference over time. But it took me time of falling on my face and realizing that what I was doing wasn't working. What I was doing was creating mixed signals and not telling the universe what I wanted to actually come to me. So again, I ask you here today to please take the time to understand what you're suggesting to yourself. And this is a process, y'all. This is a process because you've been suggesting stuff to yourself since you were a child, very young. You see, it starts as soon as we have like a conscious mind. And yes, there's the emotional mind, and our minds don't have the logical. When we're children, the logical side of our brain is nowhere near developed, and it's still something that develops over time and so on and so forth. But even in that process, that's why kids are so influenceable, right? Because their mind, they're thinking from the subconscious mind. Their brain waves are lower. They don't have as much of a prefrontal cortex. Their logical mind isn't thinking as much. So when they're around all these different people, everything they're ingesting becomes part of their autosuggestion. It becomes part of their suggested understanding, their suggested understanding of the world. Right? So when it comes to breaking down your negative autosuggestion or your uncalibrated, we'll say, autosuggestion, it takes time. You have to really develop the habit of thinking about what you're thinking about, creating space in between your thoughts and your awareness. Because you're not your thoughts. You're not your thoughts. You may feel like you're your thoughts. You may feel like you're your feelings, but you're not your thoughts and feelings. You are greater than that. You are an awareness. Your feelings are a chemical residue within your brain. Your thoughts are just a thought impulse within your brain. They're a mental wiring that energy sends upon. But you don't even have to get into the scientific side of it all. I barely know much at all. But my point is that I know enough to take the time to create space. And I've spent time creating space. And that is one of the biggest things that has helped me with my anxious tendencies. I'm not going to say my anxiety, my anxious tendencies. Growing up someone with a ton of anxious tendencies, I had to develop these habits. I had to develop this side of my mind if I didn't want to lose it. And I beg you to do the same. I'm not going to beg you to do shit. You got to do this for yourself, brother. You got to do this for your own self to create that own awareness of your life that you really want to have. If you want to have a different life, that is. I mean, you could just continue to spin in this cycle of unmindful, pleasure-seeking, uncontrolled desires and mixed signals to the universe, that of which creates that confusing reality that you really don't enjoy, or maybe you don't realize that you don't enjoy it because you don't have that space. When it just feels familiar to always be in pain, when it just feels familiar to always have that upset kind of thinking, and things don't go right for you, when that's just familiar, when you've experienced it for 20, 30, 40 years, I get it. That's just what feels normal to you. But I promise you, you can break out of that and have a more fruitful existence. But it begins with you creating space for yourself. It begins for you taking responsibility for your awareness, for the side of your mind that can actually, not even your mind, for your soul awareness, for you, that's greater than your thoughts, greater than your feelings, and actually taking control back. Baby steps, baby steps, baby steps. Create the space. Journal. This is one way I've done it. Journal on your thoughts. Journal on what it is that's coming to your mind. I do this every day. When I think in a way, and I'm like, I've developed the habit to take a step back and be like, hold on. What is that? Why am I thinking that way? And if it's something that's negative, or even in general, I'm like, hold on. Is that my understanding? Is that my belief? Is that filled with my own personal understanding of it? Most likely is. It most likely is. Because it's coming up. It's coming up from my subconscious mind. It's coming up from the back of my mind, from all of my understandings from the rest of my life. Take the time to journal on it. Journaling is one way. Meditation is another way, right? To meditate just means to become familiar with, right? Meditation and reflection go hand in hand. Now, there's thousands of different meditations you can do, and for different purposes. A lot of meditations are just simple reflection exercises when it comes to becoming familiar with your thoughts, right? So meditate on your thoughts. Take some time. Take 10 minutes, an hour. I've meditated for an hour before, and I got bigger goals than that. Because you really take the time to sit with yourself and sit with your thoughts. I've heard of people meditating for 6 hours before, right? I mean, you think like monks, Buddhist monks, they probably sit there for all day long because they've created such a space. They'll sit there, fasted up for days on end. And you might think that's crazy, but no, it's the power of the awareness. It's the power of the mind. It's the power of the awareness to create space between the soul and the mind, the animal body, even the prefrontal cortex, the thinking mind, right? To put awareness between the two. Your thinking mind may be thinking all this pain because it knows you need food and hunger. You have all these different, biological things that you need to respect. But you're still greater than that. David Goggins, a great example. That motherfucker had busted feet, bleeding out his feet, shit his pants, still running. Now, you don't have to be crazy as that, right? You don't have to be crazy as that to feel the benefit. The point is, don't be an unmindful fuck that lets their life be controlled by the outside world, that lets their life be controlled by the external, in that you never create your true self. You never express your true self to the world. Another simple act is gratitude. You see, we live in a society that is constantly thriving on people being ungrateful and needing more and more and more. But when we come from a state of gratitude and we're all receptive of good ideas and greatness, and we create the space to be thankful for what we do have, well, we let the good flow in. We let the greatness flow in. And we feel more appreciation and love for all that is. Be grateful, be mindful, be meditative, be reflective. Take the time to make space for you, brother, because nobody else can do it for you. And if you don't do it, well, you're just going to be preyed on by everything else. You're the one. I would say we got off track, but we really didn't, because this all goes back to autosuggestion. What you're meditating on, what you're reflecting on, what you're being grateful for, what you're being mindful of, or the lack of all those things. This is what you're suggesting to yourself. You're suggesting it to your mind, to then your subconscious mind, to then put out into the universe. You see what? But I'll end it with this. Most people have little awareness of their soul. They have little awareness of their spiritual side. So their mind, whether it be their animal mind or their thinking mind, is in control of the show. And when those things are in control of the show, it's not your true self being expressed in the world. Right? The thinking mind wants to be logical. And the thinking mind can do great things. The thinking mind can do great things. Let me say that again. All right? We are blessed to have adapted to that over millions of years, right? But it has a limit to creativity. It has a limit to long-term stress endurance. The animal mind is much more limited in that it's not even using reason. It's just surviving. So if you're living in a constant survival state, what do you think that does when you think about what you're putting out to the universe and what it does to your soul? If you're in survival, you're not really being creative, right? You're not really being more than what you already are. You're kind of living on low resources and just getting by. And what does that tell the universe? What does that tell God? God is all knowing, God is all respective, God is all loving. And this might not be the Christian belief, right? I would not say I'm a Christian. I believe in God, I love God, I love the universe, but I'm not a Christian. I'm spiritual. God is a spiritual essence for me that I follow and keep within my mind and help me guide my actions through. But I wouldn't say I'm a Christian. I don't go to church. Right? My real point here is that auto-suggestion is listening to God or it's listening to the devil. I'll end with that before we go on for another hour here. I hope you guys get some good stuff from this. I love you guys. Let me know what you think below. If you disagree with something, please let me know below. If you agree with something, let me know below. Have an amazing day. Love your life. Suggest the right things to your mind because nobody else will do it for you. And if you listen to everybody else, good luck, brother. You got this. Have an amazing day.